require. Like,
Yeah.
you're putting in, Jody is forced to wrath away a single shardless agent worth of investment.
Totally agree. And Jody Keith been around the block quite a bit. A very strong Magic player, has a lot of good finishes. But Luis Scott-Vargas, one of the best Magic players of all time. Full stop. End it right there. Got to be the favorite in the room as far as best players playing. Is also from Denver, so another player that gets to wake up and go sleep in his own bed after this. Hall of Famer. I could go on and on about Luis Scott-Vargas's resume.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, not only is this a really interesting and great matchup from the context of these two decks, which are one that we don't see very often in Martyr and a new take on a popular deck. It's also two great players.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to like some awesome Magic. And I think we're about to see 10 power worth of awesomeness.
Yeah, I think you might be right. And I was going to say, we don't have that much time to just banter about how great of a human and a Magic player Luis Scott-Vargas is because, well, you can see it on your screen. Luis plays so very fast. I remember there was a pro tour where he was playing a feature match and was told to slow down. Was playing another extremely fast Magic player and was just told to please slow down for coverage so that they could keep up as he plays so quickly.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's one of the most impressive elements of him is how well he plays and how fast he plays.
Yeah.
Because it's not easy to play that fast. I can tell you that much. I didn't always have a reputation for being the fastest player, so
Quite the opposite, really, right?
Yes, yeah. So to me, that's a really impressive thing is how accurately he plays with the speed that he plays. Just sees the game on a different level.
100%. Yep. All right, so here we go. We got Shardless Agent. We got 8 power. The go-to best play in Modern. I think it's pretty clear. Of course, Amulet draws and stuff like that can compete with it as well. But turn 3, putting 10 power into play is just so extremely powerful. And most of the time that means there's no more interaction. You're tapped out. Not with this Rhinos deck. You're always able to, just keep interacting with subtlety, force and negation, all these kind of things.
Yeah. And yeah, that's really, I mean, to me, that was a selling element of why I love the deck so much is the opportunity cost is so low
Yeah.
and you get so much power out of it too.
And I mean, basically the same, that's an enchantment, Shardless Agent. Basically the same power level of a 3-mana enchantment there that's revealed from Jody's, right? Abiding Grace, Shardless Agent, pretty close to power level, right?
I'm gonna actually say yes. I'm gonna zig when you want me to zag. I actually really love the card Abiding Grace, so you're not gonna get me to demean it.
Dang, my joke really backfired, huh? You would be an Abiding Grace enjoyer here. So, all right,
Yeah.
here you foiled me again. But I mean, it does, turn it into a lot of life gain, right? If you're able to play Abiding Grace, get back Martyr, and just sacrifice it every turn, that's tough to keep up with. But as it stands, here's the One Ring to give that protection. There's going to be no damage that can be dealt here. And now this gives Jody quite a lot of draws at, a Wrath effect. There's Wings of Abandon that you can overload as well as Wrath of God. And even temporary lockdown for these Rhinos is pretty gross.
Yeah, it's more like a permanent lockdown.
Yeah, touche. Thank you, BBD.
I think like this Abiding Grace it's not going to be enough. Like Jody will need some sort of wrath effects, but does have at least some time, actually quite a bit of time with the One Ring and a second One Ring to get there. So
yeah, that was the first force of negation check from Luis Scott-Vargas. He would have slammed it if it was there, as it would have just been 8-16, just 20 damage coming back. So definitely not there. And as it stands, that's gonna draw Jody another card here, another card for draw step next turn, and then 2 more from the ring. And ooh, what's better than 2 rings, BBD?
at a 3 rings, 4 rings,
3 rings, correct. Yeah, I spot another ring in hand there from Jody. So if the force of negation wasn't there, unless Luis just picked it up, there's even more time to be bought and another 3 cards from the next ring. So yeah, every time we've seen Jody Keith's mono white Martyr deck on camera, it's looked pretty awesome.
Yeah, it has looked great. I gotta say though, I'm a little disappointed. The One Ring. Why are we seeing? I mean,
Yeah.
this flavor fail.
I was really hoping that card would be restricted just for the flavor alone. You know, honestly, it probably would have been correct by just how powerful the card is as well, but the flavor was just there.
Oh, oh, you know it.
All right, so draws a bunch of cards here. And now is it time to maybe start casting some of your other stuff? Or do you just cast another One Ring here?
I mean, it depends on how safe you feel because I wouldn't feel that safe as Jody. Like there's a lot of ways that things can go wrong if you just kind of throw some stuff onto the table when you're at 17 life, facing this board, facing the damage from the One Ring as well.
Looks like maybe players are talking about just making sure the right amount of lands were played. I think this is correct. It should be 6 lands.
I believe so.
Yep. As long as we're counting the land that Jody played this turn, but always good to make sure. Judges are your friend. Remember that. Just call a judge whenever you have a question. Always better than the alternative.
So it looks like this is going to be play to the board. I mean, this might be a lockdown.
Okay, here is a really spicy card here as we got Ranger Captain of Eos. Another trick I love with this card in this Rhinos matchup is just responding to the Cascade trigger by sacrificing it. It probably doesn't come up a ton, but I mean, that's one way to stop Rhinos.
Yeah, I mean that's a really powerful interaction. It's stop 8 power with your creature that already provided you value anyway.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, so got a creature picked up there. The Kami of the False Hope. That's quite the combination with Abiding Grace.
Yeah, that is quite the combo.
How does Luis get out of that?
I think it's going to take just a piece of interaction at the right time.
Yeah, I'm thinking like, what if the combo is on the battlefield, right? There's one Abiding Grace, there's one Kami of False Hope. Does Luis have a way out, or is that just, a trap for him?
Well, I mean, there's going to be like leyline binding that could take away the Abiding Grace, but also Kami comes back during Jody's end step,
Yeah.
so a piece of removal then is also a viable way to prevent it from stopping the combat damage on your turn.
Oh, sure. Just fire it at end step. Ends up being good enough. Okay, so that's not going to be enough. Jody will need, some other pieces of insurance for sure. But as far as the last time we looked at the hand, it's there.
And 3 more cards are coming too. So.
All right. Solitude, a couple of lands picked up. Has about 150 other cards here. So Thraven Inspector. There's the temporary lockdown. A One Ring at the back. 2 Abiding Grace. Skyclave Apparition. Wow.
Yeah, there's just a plethora of riches here. I mean, I feel in some regards, you still want to sequence properly, but I think there's a lot of different ways to come out ahead here.
Yeah. So here it looks like maybe Abiding Grace. If we haven't played a Landlet, another option is just temporary lockdown to kind of test to see if there's a counter spell, and then just the One Ring again, reset that. But there is the Force of Negation. Now, is there another force? Doesn't look like it from Luis. I see Shardless Agent, Violent Outburst, and a Leyline. So smart call from Jody there, not going for any other, less than the One Ring protection, as Luis might have been able to sneak by.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Like you're in a commanding spot in this game. Don't put yourself at unnecessary risk by saying, "Oh, there wasn't a Force of Negation before. Maybe there won't be one now."
Exactly. But as it stands, we're kind of at this part of the game where things are looking very good for Jody Keith. So I want to kind of look forward to the next game from Luis and this, sweet take on Rhinos. All the sweetness from this list, are you like taking them out? Are you taking Leyline of the Guild Pack out?
I'm not sure. I could honestly see it because it's not that these creatures and the like combat stats that they're providing, like from Scion of Draco, that's not what's relevant in this matchup. So I do think there is a world where you want to cut some of that kind of stuff so you're not overplaying into wrath effects.
Yeah.
And build up more interaction instead. Because a Shardless Agent into Rhinos, that's enough pressure by itself. But you need to be able to make sure you're not getting run over like this.
Yeah, I mean, the targeting your creatures, I think the best part of the Leyline Sign of Draco thing is just removal is dead,
Yeah.
and when Jody's playing removal, like Winds of Abandon, Wrath of God, like this just literally does nothing. It negates Solitude, but we might even see Jody take that card out as well, in response to that. But that
Yeah,
is the one thing that is the cost with this Domain Rhinos instead of Teamer Rhinos is we heard LSV talk about what cards that he cut to play, these new ley lines, these Sign of Dracos. And it was the Tishana's Tidebinders, a card that is just excellent against like the One Ring and really just Jody's deck in general. So while I think this version is really cool, this is maybe not the matchup where we should be like hyping up Luis's, super cool tech dot list of Rhinos. Wouldn't you think?
Oh, I completely agree with you. Like there is trade-offs for, what decisions he's made with his deck list, and losing some of those elements to give your creatures these like dominating combat stats. This is probably the nightmare trade-off, right?
Yeah, I mean, man, Luis just really should have been prepared for the mono white Martyr matchup. It's probably on him for this choice, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, I mean that's his fault. If you don't prepare for Abiding Grace, then what are you doing with your life?
You're messing up. That's what you're doing. So, all right, let's get into game number 2 here with Luis Scott-Vargas down a game to Jody Keith, and we'll see if Luis on the play can be a little bit different here. Kind of looking at that hand, see a couple lands, Leyline Binding, some Force Negations. There's a couple cards face down. I see a dice on 5. That's not good for Luis Scott-Vargas.
Nope, that's not what you want to see.
All right, but here we are, Flooded Strand to kick this off.
And a lot of times I would say being down resources with a deck that has such a high power level as Rhinos, like maybe isn't that big of a deal. However, this is a matchup where I think it is a big deal.
Yeah, I do as well, because one Wrath of God, when you have 2 Violent Outbursts or whatever, it's not that big of a deal. But when you're low on resources, the thing that I would want to keep if I'm Luis is like, a 2-drop here, 1 Rhinos and 1 piece of interaction, like a Force Negation or something. You don't have the ability to be like, all right, I'm going to keep 3 Rhinos, 3 lands, and a Scion or something.
Absolutely, and it looked like LSV even like bottomed a Force of Negation off of the 5 cards. So definitely going to be missing some key powerful cards.
Yep, absolutely. But we know Luis and how well he plays the game of Magic. I'm sure we are down to 5 cards for a reason, as the rest of those hands, we're not going to get it done. So here we go. We see the Surveil land from Jody into a Plains, and just a lot of cards. Can't really make out all of them. I saw Eagle of the North as well as a play. Plus Abiding Grace, I think, in the back.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I do think is really nice here is that, especially if it's like a Violent Outburst that can dodge a piece of sorcery speed removal, is LSV doesn't need much more to put Jody on like a 2-turn clock, or even possibly a 1-turn clock. And so even though LSV is down all these cards, he might only need just 1 piece of interaction to lock it up with this pressure.
We'll see if Jody has one of the 3 Hollowed Moonlights in the board. This would be devastating. Oh, it's not there, but the Reprieve is there. Okay, yep, 2 of those in the main as well. Wow, Reprieve and Hollowed Haunting to be able to deal with these Rhinos. The more and more I look at Jody's deck, the more I think this matchup, I don't want to say a buy by any means, but this matchup looks good for Jody, I must say.
Yeah, and it definitely looks prepared at the very least.
Yeah. I mean, just if you have, Reprieving the Crashing Footfalls or Hollowed Haunting the Crashing Footfalls, it's pretty much the same. It's, counter target spell, draw a card, and that is just extremely powerful.
Yeah, I mean, you can resuspend, but by the time that's happening, I think the game is generally going to be pretty decided one way or another.
And of course, Hollowed Moonlight is what I meant. Misspoke there. Sorry about that, chat. First mistake I've ever made, BBD.
It's the first I've ever seen, and I'm disappointed.
Yeah, hey, I had a good run.
You had a great run.
All right, there we go. We see the Rhinos coming into play. Let's see if there is an answer to deal with all these powers, or if Luis can maybe sneak it. There is the temporary lockdown, but the last 2 cards was a force and blue card. That's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 damage. 12 is not 13. So we'll see if there's a way to get the last couple points.
Yeah, I mean, 12 is not 13. That could be famous last words against a deck like Martyr.
Yeah, no kidding. Violent Outburst, anyone?
All right, and there was also Solitude, so Jody buffered himself a little bit as well.
Yep, there we go. Goes to Jody's turn. Let's see if there's another answer to this stuff. Land 4 plus ring. See another temporary lockdown. Skyclave apparition. Skyclave's an interesting one. That doesn't seem amazing in this matchup post board, does it?
No, yeah, I don't love it.
Yeah.
I think as far as I can tell, it looks like Jody might be kind of in a spot where he's got to just kind of play some creatures out and
Yeah.
okay.
Ooh, and there it goes. Subtlety in response there. We're at the end step to just make sure you got 7 power to attack to even this up here. Okay, I guess that's how you win it on a multi 5 there. That was really impressive.
Yeah, that was really impressive. And I want to credit one thing about that. Actually, the whole match from LSV's perspective is how aggressively he's playing. In terms of he's not trying to generate card advantage everywhere he can. He understands that he's never going to win that game against Jody. He's got to play this aggressive game.
Yeah, I would 100% agree. If it's turn 8, Jody's winning almost 100% of the time. So Luis is definitely going to be pedal to the metal, trying to get it done. Going to be a little bit tougher for Luis here. Game number 3 being on the draw, but let's see what happens here in our final game. I'm excited. This has been a great match. Let's dive on in.
I'm always excited to see decks like Mono White Martyr. It's just, it's in some ways people say Burn is the fun police. I think this is the fun police. And sometimes it's fun to see the fun.
Is that a mulligan to 4 this time from Luis? Oh,
is that it? Yeah, that's not good.
Yikes. Yeah, that is not good at all. Mulligan to 4 in the deciding game. Kind of giving me flashbacks to the Pro Tour against Andrew Ellenbogen. I believe that was exactly a multi 4 in that final game as well. And you just hate to see that,
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit worse here at round 6 of RC Denver, but you hate to see it at any point in time.
Yeah, there you go. 100% worse, that's for sure. But that being said, if any deck is going to still be okay on a mulligan to 4, it's going to be Rhinos. I would, if both players mold to 4, I would put a huge advantage to Luis Scott-Vargas. So definitely still in this one.
Definitely still in it for sure. I think Luis said, okay, I won on a mold of 5 last game while I was on the play. Let's ratchet it up. So can I win on a mold of 4 on the draw?
Yeah, Luis is such a skilled Magic player that sometimes, he just gets bored while he's playing. So he likes to challenge himself, Probably had a 7-card hand that was just perfect, but was like, you know what? Let me give this a shot here and mold down to 4.
So Jody hasn't played any cards yet. So I'm interested what he has in his hand. I mean, certainly a lot of reactive elements, but I'm curious, what level there is.
Yeah. Okay. So here is a field in response to this. So that's got to lead me to believe it is a field plus one of those 2 mana powerful instants, either Reprieve or Hollowed Moonlight would be my guess. But that being said, there's quite a few basics. Oh, wow. There is only 1 basic in Luis' list. So that other field is going to actually do some damage.
Yeah, and I think that's very relevant, especially if Jody does have the answer here.
Yeah, and there is that absolutely phenomenal answer. Hollowed Moonlight, let's see if Luis has a follow-up Shardless Agent. It is there. Pressure back on Jody.
Yeah, and that was good sequencing to go Outburst into Shardless Agent in that order.
Yeah.
That way you force out the interaction on Jody's turn, and now on LSV's turn, Jody was tapped out and couldn't have the interaction.
Yep. And here is the one ring that's able to be resolved. And you got to think, if Luis had a 7-card hand, the chances of him having a force plus blue card to pitch here would have been a lot higher. And then this match could just be straight over. As that's not the case, Jody Keith untapping with the extremely powerful artifact.
Yeah, I think based on the way that these decks operate and look like, this is starting to look a little bit more like we saw from that first game, where things might be starting to slip a bit out of LSV's grasp.
Yeah, 100%. So now we're going to search for a 1-drop. What is it, BBD, and why is it Thraben Inspector?
Looks like it's Martyr of Sands. I don't know. You don't get a clue off of Martyr of Sands.
God, an in real life misclick. Interesting. Okay, so
Yeah.
it gets Martyr of Sands. All right, obviously that's the better pick here. As even if Jody has like 3 white cards, gaining 9 life here is basically the 1 ring protection from 1 extra attack. And what a combination! The 1 ring and Martyr of Sands. The kind of absurd combination is really the 1 ring and Shieldred, right? Like you lose some life, but you're gaining so much when you're drawing. Martyr of Sands and the 1 ring might just be better.
Yeah, and I think that is really like what makes this deck great is specifically the 1 ring. I think without a card like that, you're going to run out of gas way too often.
Yeah.
You're going to have these grindy elements, but you can easily just kind of falter. But being able to draw so many cards with the 1 ring and the life loss not really being a drawback, I think that is kind of the core reason why like Jody would want to play a deck like this. And
Totally
it
agree.
seems to be good.
I mean, it seems pretty awesome. You got to think that this is a matchup that is extremely matchup polarizing, right? Like, I want to just see what this mono white deck does against an amulet deck, against Tron. Like I would think that those are just extremely terrible matchups. But any deck that's trying to attack you, and I think Yawgmoth would be the big test. Like if Yawgmoth is also a good matchup, then wow, you have a good matchup against 3 out of the top 4 decks, but I would assume Amulet and Yogg would both be kind of rough, wouldn't you think, Baby D? Or
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure, honestly. I mean, there are so many Field of Ruin type effects in this deck that
yeah,
it's hard to say that that's a guarantee,
yeah. Just double checking if you have to shuffle. You do, so we'll see LSV pick up. Oh, maybe you don't. Okay, all right. I was like, dang, I got immediately proved wrong. That's too bad. But yeah, even if you don't have another basic, you still just got to shuffle your deck.
That's the ultimate right there. That's the you got lethal on the board. I'm gonna make my opponent shuffle their deck one more time.
Yeah. That's how you really get them. The extra still had all these shuffles. So back in the day, before you have the 1 ring to get a huge card advantage, what was the card that you always had to bring back Martyr? It was like Proclamation of Sands or something, right?
There's Proclamation of Rebirth, and I
Okay,
think that was kind of the core engine.
gotcha. But as it stands, that is Jody Keith taking this match down.